we talk about software development lifecycle models, there are a lot of models. Apparently, sometimes you need to actually be sure of what model works for you. But I'll share a few models with us. Number one, to help understand and implement the SDLC phase, various SDLC models have been created by software development experts, universities, and standard organizations. Guess what? You are at liberty to create your own development life cycle that you think you can adapt and adhere to. But in view of the fact that you cannot efficiently develop a life cycle by yourself, then it is always good to adopt a model which is also safer in case there are issues in the future. You can refer to the model used. Are we together?
Yes, we are.
So now the reason for using these models, number one, it provides basics for project planning, estimating, and scheduling. So if you want to do a project, this is another big part that most of us have issues with. The part of estimating of time, estimating of cost, estimating of resources. I'm sure most developers have issues with this. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no?
You are on point.
Yes, yeah.
Can someone share why we have issues with this kind of, with estimating precisely? Time, costs, resources. Can someone share why we think we have issues with such estimation most times?
Most times I think most times it depends on the client. Like, okay, this is what they want, the budget they have for it, and how soon they want it. And sometimes the client might not even understand what they want. They just say, I want and have, and you bring a lot of impossible features for you to do. So you'll be battling to plan, estimating and giving them the kind of schedule.
Okay, but sometimes there is an issue between developers and clients under estimation. It tells you, I gave you almost 500,000 and this is what I'm getting. No. I have these things I told you, and I have these things I told you, and I have these things I told you, and eventually you are not putting them in place. Has anybody have experience?
Yes, sure.
And you know why it is like that is because there is no proper project planning. In your project planning, the first thing you do is to put the project in category and stages of development. The man said he wants heaven on earth. Sir, it is possible to get heaven on earth. But how about this? The first stage of the project said we should build hearts first. Cost of building hearts is 500,000. The next stage of the project said we should build hearts linked to heaven, but not yet in heaven. So cost of linking hearts to heaven cost extra 500,000. And by the time we are now linking to heaven, after a while, and we are assured of the link between earth and heaven, we now have to bring heaven to earth, which costs another 2 million naira. You know what you've done for him? That is, I'm giving you financial estimation. I'm going to come to other estimation. You know what you have done for him? You have left him to choose based on his spouse. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And in your terms and conditions, you are not going to be handcuffing yourself to anything because your project planning already states it how it's going to go. So you will not tell you, we have stage 1 to 7. Okay, let's just do stage 1 to 2 for now because that's how much I can afford. Do you get?
Yes.
Now, we now go to estimation on resources and development. Give in your planning, as you are giving those categories, attaching costs and resources to them based on what is possible. If you know that the project can start, what the project needs is probably a cloud hosting somewhere, or it needs a 3-tier or a 2-tier, and the man can only afford stand-alone. You have to state that for stage 1, we can only do stand-alone. For stage 2, we can go to 2-tier. For stage 3, we can go to 3-tier. So you would not be overshot, because in the long run, he will tell everybody that I actually paid him, and I paid him how much he said he wanted. So they will not ask him about what you said you paid him for. They will only question you for how much money he has paid you, because there is no planning. Now, in your resources deployment, if you are buying softwares and if you are not buying softwares, make him realize that if you are not going to buy softwares and use pirated software, you have to state it for a Nigerian client. They are used to it. They are not used to buying licensed resources. And they want a project that would optimally work on licensed resources. Is that correct?
Yes, so
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
And you now start having issue. Oga, we cannot use Microsoft Office that is packaged and licensed because it's 9.5. The one I use for you is 500. You only pay me 30,000 naira for this job, for God's sake. How do I cope? If I buy 9.5, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do upgrade. So you are taking about 50%. If you want a licensed copy, fine, this is how much. But if you have already set it in your project planning that for a free use of free resources is at XYZ cost, use of licensed resources is as XY cost, use of licensed and online backup or cloud backup is at so costing. So he knows what he's going for. And you two have to now be very careful at keeping to the project plan. Not that you now eventually collect cost for a licensed software and eventually now going to use an unlicensed software. That is integrity or character assassination. So then scheduling. We do a lot of problems here in scheduling too. A client came to you, I want an e-commerce solution. Yes, people can develop e-commerce solution within 2 weeks, within 1 month. But I bet it with you, you cannot do it because you have other things you are doing. Don't give him 2 weeks. Don't give him 1 month. Tell him, sir, your e-commerce, is anybody interested in saying anything? I'm hearing some voice. Hello, I'm hearing some voice.
Okay, we are all
Interested.
Can I go on?
Yes, please.
Yes, you can. Yes, yes.
Okay. So if the project, you know you can finish it in 3 months, please and please don't give 1 month. It is part of character assassination in software development. Give 4 months and deliver within 3 months. Then you would have earned some respect. But what you can do for him because he's in a haste and he just wants its life and running, sir, if you pay at 50%, by tomorrow or next tomorrow, you can have under construction. If you pay at 20%, by another 2 weeks, you can have the prototype to test. If you pay at 80%, we will deploy a test running while developments continuously go on. If you pay at 100%, application will be deployed and monitoring will go on, so that they know that, okay, they would respect your instincts and they will respect your professionalism. And this is where most programmers lose it. And that's why you see some clients to tell you, everything you want to do, is it not in your head? What are you buying yourself? Let me give you 100,000. Not looking at other factors of things that are around, because you sold yourself so cheap that the customer cannot place a value on you because you have not placed a value on yourself. Then we go to provides framework for standard set of terminologies, activities, and deliverables. Always provide a proper framework. Make sure it is in an appropriate terms that is as clear as possible. This is it. It helps you get 2 things. The second stage that I'm explaining is not something you are going to give as an immediate deliverable to your customer, but it's something you must have had while you are developing a solution, so that by the time he's telling you to answer for the project and he needs you to train someone or you need to take the project over, you can tell him that you can get your frameworks, activity, and deliverables as XYZ cost. Like for me in my company now, in our company, what we do is when you are taking your project off us to another developer, we don't have a problem with that. We'll give you all the deliverables, but you have to pay us for the service charge of the deliverables because you are like your guard who have been keeping the software from a lot of infringement and all that. And we did the first initial development. So this is another way you can make money at a parting fund when your this guy is leaving, your client is leaving. Provide mechanism for project tracking and control. This is key. When you develop a project to your clients, don't just leave him. Check him up every 3 weeks. Have a check of his feed. Send him a questionnaire or a survey. The solution was deployed 3 months ago. Can you kindly fill up this survey and questionnaire? It informs you of how the solution is working. It gives you joy, or it tells you what to improve on in your next upgrade. If it's another 3 months again, making 6 months, you send in another out another one. Another 9 months, you send in out another one, and it keeps going like that because it's helping you to gather data. And don't forget, you can't keep such data on your system. Keep it in a cloud. Have a URL. Probably use one of the Google resources to keep it online so that anywhere you are, you can always access. Because sometimes a customer is calling you, he wants real-time information, and you already have 15 customers. And because you cannot explain to him in clear terms about his project, because you are not at the disposal of the system or something, you make him feel like he's a second, he's not a primary customer. He feels he has issues psychologically. Then increase visibility of project progress to all stakeholders. That is key. Let me move on. Advantages of choosing an appropriate SDLC. One, you can read up that one. Develop speed, products, quality, tracking control, client relation, project risk. It decreases project risk. That's key. Then project management overhead. Simple. I can move on, right? Let me ask. Can I move on?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
So we have common life cycle model. These are very common. We have the waterfall, we have the spiral, we have the agile. But I will be talking first about the waterfall model. We can take a screenshot of this with us so that this is how it looks like. The waterfall is like when the water is falling. You know, when you pour a water in the separation techniques for the hardcore science student, they know about that. When you are pouring a water, doing a liquid substance, doing separation techniques, it will of us analyze the content in the liquid. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct. Absolutely.
Then you now go to the design stage because that analysis is key, and the analysis would help you do other things as explained earlier. So let's go on. Under that, we have is one of the oldest and most well-known SDLC model, and it's still very relevant. Everything here is still very relevant to the industry. Then follows a sequential step-by-step process for requirement analysis to maintenance. So we can't be lost, except if you want to get lost as an individual. So systems that have well-defined and understood requirements are a good fit for waterfall model. So like easy to use. I'll just go to the major thing. These trends, easy to understand, easy to use. I'm sure with this, we know that it's very easy to understand with this model that we can see, the 6 stages model. So then provide structure to inexperienced staff. So if an inexperienced staff sees it from the literary English meaning, he knows what analysis is, he knows what design is, then and so on and so forth. Good for management control, plan, staff, and track. So let me move on. The weaknesses, it has its own weakness. There's nothing with a merit without a demerit. All requirements must be fully specified upfront. If requirements in waterfall model are not fully specified, it will be difficult to go back when you have started designing. Are we together?
We are together.
So it does not have a place whereby you can always reanalyze at each state or redesign at each state. It has to follow that sequence. So you must have proper analysis. Then I'll go to the last line. Hand little opportunity for customers to preview the system until it is made, until it may be too late. You know why? What this is trying to say here is that this waterfall model do not give room most times to prototype. When you look at what you have here, it is from testing to deployment. There's no prototype stage. Can you see it? From development to testing to development, TDT.
Yes.
I mean, DTD. So it is, it cannot, until you deploy, it cannot see it. So this happens most times on standalone application or single tier application. Then let's go on to the next one. When to use waterfall model. Requirements are very well known. We can always download requirements. Technology to understood, new versions of an existing product also make it easy for, might be a reason for us to use it. And porting an existing product to a new product might also be a reason for us to use waterfall model. Then this is spiral iterative model. Can we see this?
Yes, we can.
So who can tell me what makes it different from waterfall with this diagram?
It has
Circular
a kind of
movement.
cycle.
The cycle. So
circular movement.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not linear. It's not like it has to come from top to down.
Yeah.
It's keep going. So when you get to requirement gathering, you go to analysis. By the time you get to maintenance, you go to a place whereby you call enhance. That means you are going for an upgrade. You can see at that point you are going for an upgrade, means that you have to repeat the cycle again because you are now releasing 2020 version. You cannot afford to just go from maintenance to 2020. No, you have to go through another level of requirement gathering. You have to see what is obtainable again in the market to enhance the software. These are mostly done for 2-tier and 3-tier applications. So we should keep that in mind. Then spiral model is a risk-driven iterative model. Divides a project into iteration. You know when they say something iterates. So yeah, each iteration deals with one or more risk. Each iteration starts with small sets of requirements and goes through development stage, except installation and maintenance for those set of requirements. What this is explaining to us is that it's, in a nutshell, it's risk-driven. It's one of the risks it takes. Hello?
No, we are with you.
So one of the risks that you face or you are being driven by is the risk of cost. Your client might tell you, oh, I'm sorry, I don't think I have this huge money. Then just stay at the waterfall model because he does not want to upgrade every year. He wants something that is one-off. Develop once and we'll just be using till eternity, maybe until we have a breakdown or something. And maybe, or we found out that we are obsolete. And a lot of risks are attached to it. Then let's go to spiral model strengths. Number one is provides early indication of insurmountable risk without much cost. Yeah, insurmountable risk without much cost. What that is explaining to us in a nutshell is that you have the capacity to determine the cost that you spend. You might overlook requirement gathering and go to the next stage because you feel your requirements are still relevant. So critical high-risk functions for development first. That's another key. Then the design does not have to be perfect in spiral model. That is the kind of model that said we will improve on the job, learn on the job. As we deploy, we'll see what needs another issue to be rectified again. That is the model most of our online solutions, Facebook, Amazon, and the likes are running on because most of the time they run on a continuous way of improvements. The design is never perfect. You always find a new feature and so on and so forth. Then I'll go to user can be closely tied to all life cycle steps. Yeah, that's key. Early and frequent feedback from user is key. You know, when people started having issue about Facebook consuming their data when they are chatting, Facebook decided to do an app called Facebook Messenger. So you can conveniently use the Messenger without the Facebook app, and you can just be chatting. Is that correct? Hello?
It's correct.
Yes, that's
Yes, that's
correct.
correct.
That's correct. That's correct.
What they have done there is, it is still under the same platform, but they have made each of the features independent of each other. So it's just to make life easy for the user based on their feedback. Because someone would just say, I'm not going through my wall, I'm not going through anything, and my old data is going. I'm only chatting. So they kept that, and that's working for them. So you have to look at the way that works for you too. Time spent for evacuating risks too large for small and low risk projects. Yes, that's one of the issues there. Then time spent planning, resetting objectives, doing risk analysis and prototyping may be excessive. You know, the cycle keep going. So you can be so tired, it can be so tiring. So most times this model does not work for a one-off customer that is not really paying you so well. Because if the process is taking you almost round the clock in a year, and the client wants to just pay 500,000 divided by 6 months, you are likely not to be able to do any other job for the whole year. And if care is not taken, you'll be queried or questioned for not delivering as due. So another risk there is risk assessment expertise is required. Yes, you need people who can manage risk to help you. And these are one of the problems we lack in Africa, in Nigeria. All these segments and sections, nobody is specializing there. The only risk assessment and expertise that we have are people who do risk on building, do risk on manufacturing, who do risk on marketing. No, there are few people who specialize in IT risk assessment. Very few people. So for some of us that are in this software class, because the key thing about this software class is, let me bet it with you, not all of us will eventually make it out to be a software developer, not because of anything, but because we have other engagements. But we can pick a segment of all this life cycle and specialize on it. You can be a software analyst, you can be a software designer, you can be a software tester, you can be a software developer, you can be a software maintenance officer. So you can choose between this expertise. You can be a software risk manager. People are looking for people who specialize in this part. So it's just a buy-in for some of us to note if we cannot really do the hardcore development. So let's go to when to use Spiral model. When creation of a prototype is appropriate, yeah, then you can look at it. When cost and risk evaluation is important, you can look at it. For medium to high risk projects, not for low risk project. Like I said, for low risk project, it is safer for you to stay with what? With what model? For low risk project, waterfall. That's correct. So for low risk project, it's safer to stay on waterfall. For medium and high risk, you can give Spiral. Then for a new line, a new product line, yes, you can explore it. Then let's go to Agile. Are we here? Who can tell me what makes it different from the two? From the diagram.
Yeah, Agile.
Agile has many cycles, not just one.
Agile run bit by bit.
Exactly. I think, and if you observe that the stages are just so simple: design, develop, and test. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
So
yes,
it means now this is the issue with Agile. Agile gives permission for the person doing the chat room to develop, to design. You can design the chat room alone for the person developing chat room. The person developing picture plugins can take his own design, develop and test. When you are done, then you do what? You integrate. So when there is an issue with the chat room, this happens more with people who use Java would understand. People who use Java will understand that we have J2ME, J2IEE, J2SE, and JSP, and so on and so forth. Because most this Agile is like a model used for most of the Java products. Are we familiar with the J2IE, J2SC, J2ME? Is anybody familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, enterprise.
Yeah, we're going to be taking enterprise later. So what am I trying to say here is that in this AGA, it allows independent developer to work and then infuse their development. Let's move on. Speed up or bypass one or more lifecycle phases, which means I can take chat room development and bypass development of the interface. I can take, just like what we are having on our web development now. Apparently everything you need, you have a plugin, you have a framework. Except you want to really do something very unique, something very customized to you, you want to really develop on your own. But if you want resources, every resources you might need to put a website together without even touching coding are available. So that's an example of AGI. Then we have usually less formal and reduced scope. So it has a reduced scope and is less formal and that's one of the reasons why C#, C++, Java are not as developer friendly like Python. You know, a lot of people would prefer to run into Python than to want to run into Java or C# or C++. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, correct.
Because Python is like for everybody. When people tell you I can program, 96% of them are actually using Python because they has the scope. Let me put it this way: the scope are formal to work life experience, but Java and they are informal. You have to make it formal with your expertise. It's not that everything you are not being fed like a baby. They assume that you are a toddler that can walk, that can talk, and probably can eat, not a kid, like a baby that is just growing. So those are some of the two experiences. Then used for time-critical application, used in organization that employ discipline method. You can see the relationship of the last line with second line. Used in organization that employ disciplined method, which means they must employ a set of disciplined programmers who are ready to write out the code, who are ready to put things in order. Let me shock all of us here. Sorry to every other developer that are coming in and think they want to go the easy way. The best way in programming is to learn the nitty-gritty, the core. Be professional at it, just like Mr. Ridwan has been taking us. Be professional at it and learn to be an expert. Don't look for the easy way out. 85% of people are used to, after this kind of training, they will start going to use templates, sample designs, and keep modifying. The moment you start that in your development career, that's how you will end. Sorry to say that, it's not a course. It's just a reality. I'm sure Mr. Ridwan can relate with that.
Yes, absolutely.
So the moment you are not ready to be patient, to go to the nitty-gritty of what you have been taught so far and explore the nitty-gritty, then you'll be a second feeder in the industry at all times. People who are still very, very good in Java some 10 years ago are still relevant to market till date, except the lazy ones that are among them that could not keep to date of what is trending. The moment you know the foundation, you are relevant to market. You only need to keep improving or updating what you know already. But if you are a framework user, nobody ever knew that Joomla is going to be subdued. Nobody ever knew that Drupal is going to be subdued. Fine, they are using it excellently in some countries, but in Nigeria, everybody is using WordPress. The question I ask a lot of people is, what if WordPress ceases to exist or start having issues? But the truth is that if you are an HTML, PHP, C#, CSS, JavaScript developer, you are relevant at all times. Am I correct, Mr. Ridwan?
You are absolutely correct. Absolutely.
So a framework person life cycle ends the moment the trend ends. If the trend ends tomorrow, then you have to start looking for where else to get. And you know one bad thing about industries? Industries do not wait for you to upgrade. Industries do not wait for you to upgrade. Industries would rather make you redundant, fire you to hire some people who are more relevant to market. Are we together? So you have to keep moving. So some agile method. Number one, rapid application development. Those are some of the agile method. We have the Scrum. We have extreme programming. We have these things you can Google to read more. You can screenshot this. So you can Google to read more. We have adaptive software, that's ASD. We have feature driven, that's FDD. Or you look at all these, some of these methods, and see the one you can explore for your own life cycle. Sorry. So then we go to strengths. Deliver a working product faster than conventional linear development model. Because everybody has a department they are running from. The guy that is running the chart, developing the chart, is different from the guy doing user interface. It's different from the guy doing back end. It's different from the guy in the SQL server. It makes the workload a bit more faster. Number two, customer feedback at every stage ensures that the end deliverable satisfies their expectation. You can always show that, okay, we are done with the chat room. They are still working on the interface. What do you feel? He can give you his feedback. So you are not going to go and take everything to him and get confused. You are getting feedback per stage. Then there is no guesswork. There is no guesswork in this model. Between the development team and customer, everybody knows what is coming and what is going to be used. Let me tell you another strength of this agile is that you might even start doing client training before the solution is ready, because they already have the scope. You only need to explain the flow charts to them. And by the time they are taking the interface, because they have little background on tech, they can work it out. So let's move on. So where we have weakness. For large projects, it is difficult to judge. It is difficult to judge the efforts and the timeline required for the project. So you cannot say a particular time. That's why when you hear developers telling you the project will say 6 months or 9 months, clients don't like to hear these statements most times. Am I right?
All right. You're right.
But you agree with me that because they don't like to hear these statements, they get into wrong hands and they get beaten. Is that also correct?
It's correct.
Yeah. So since the requirements are ever changing, there is hardly an emphasis which is laid on design and documentation. Therefore, chances of the project going off the track easily are much more. So because you have to wait for the old project to be done and all that, there are a lot of constraints to look at. So I would say thank you here. And if there are questions, before I move on and say bye-bye, because I have a few words of advice. If there are any questions, then we can have our questions now. Anybody? Questions, comments, concerns, contribution? And I can also learn from everybody.
Yeah, can we have the presentation? Can we have the presentation?
Definitely. You get it from the host, Mr. Balogun.
Okay,
yes.
No problem. Hopefully, are we going to implement all this during our project, so that we have a better understanding and a better technique on how we're going to develop?
This is my advice. This is my advice. You choose a model that works for you first. But if it is the agile, then I will recommend that. I will recommend more of the rapid application development. It's on the screen right now. If it is the agile, I will recommend that. Then I also recommend feature-driven development, the FDD. So those two are, I use those two more often. Then people that use a lot of frameworks can use adaptive software development. So except for in few cases, I use waterfall if they are small projects. So any other questions, concerns, comments? Comments, concern, questions?
My question
Hello?
is, how do you want to know that? Okay, let's say I'm a client and I want to give my software development out to a company. You know, I've participated in a project whereby I work as the business analyst, and you know, the project took them like 3 years. It was these Indian developers, and you know, what they told the client was, we are using Agile. So that
Okay.
means if the client is coming up with new features, you know, he's going to be charged more. So when I came into the project, I noticed that they are using that to, like, you know, get more money from him. And you know, so what I want to ask is, when is the best time to, like, you know, like adopt a particular method? And let's say I'm a client, I want to give my project out to a company. How am I going to tell them, like, okay, this is the method you should use, or they'll be the ones to come up with the one that suits them, you know?
Most times, number one, most times customers don't have an idea. Most customers, not all. Some customers do, but most customers don't have an idea. But it is always advisable to have your own method that you have adopted and present to the customer that this is our own work routine. Then in cases of exploiting customers, well, it is not too good. It is not ethical. It is not ethical. It is not ethical. You have to be sure and ask yourself, based on what I explained in the first set of the first slides of the class, you need to ask yourself honestly, how much will cost you to do the old solution? Don't forget, you are in an environment where you have to put power supply into consideration. You might have to even put cost of generator per day for that 6 months. I don't know, maybe you get my point. You might have to do cost of data. These Indian guys, I work with them a lot. Apparently, I had a 2 years course in India. This is what they leverage on. And while I was in India, I was in New Delhi for 2 years. I learned their techniques, which is not so good for a growing industry. And that's why they are not as growing as the Chinese. The Chinese want to replicate 50 things to you at a time. Go and use it. He knows you will call for an upgrade. An Indian man wants to hold on to that first thing because he's never too sure of another thing again. You can see differences in people, which also affects their work life. So most Nigerians, most Africans too always think like the Indians when we are developing or deploying solutions to customer. We are looking at recursive finances. It is always good to spell it out to your customer, or the customer get to ask also that how much am I paying for maintenance? How much am I paying if you are coming to my office? This is another big issue programmers don't always face. You are going to take a project. If the customer is coming to your project, fine. The 500,000 naira you ask of might be awesome. But if you are going to the customer's office, don't forget that you might have to go 3-4 times a week sometimes. Some of them, when you tell them to come on Zoom or when you tell them to come on WhatsApp video, they will tell you, "Oga, well, come. If you can come, just come." I don't know, maybe you get the point. And each time you go, nobody is thinking of your cost of mobilization. So if you have to visit them, write it there, per visit is at XYZ cost. I don't know, maybe you get. Calculate your transportation and your inconvenience charges for the day and put it there that per visit is at XYZ cost. Are we together?
Yes, we are.